Today we're talking about VR news, upcoming games coming out, what you can look forward to. We've got some gadgets, some VR accessories, and on a larger scale, stuff I'm working on and what I'm really looking forward to and what I'll be sharing over the next week. Okay, so we're going to kick it off with games and Quest news. So VRIDER SBK takes Superbike racing to Steam and PSVR 2 next year. This is not Quest, but for those of you on PCVR and PSVR 2, I think this looks quite fun. And if you're down with sim racing, which kind of what I got to talk about near the end of this, I think it looks like a lot of fun. And the MR puzzle game Squingle receives brand new version next week. Created by Dr. Benjamin Outram, Squingle sees you guiding orbs from start to finish while avoiding the edges of the glass-like mazes containing them. The new edition of Squingle is being released by VRAL Games from VRIDER, as previously shown, with mixed reality and fully immersive environments supporting both touch controllers and hand tracking. So not quite my cup of tea. It's not something I'll be playing, most likely. Kind of reminds me of, like, Does It Stack? It's a game that is fine for killing time, but I don't know. I got better things to do in VR than to play around with something that simplistic, which isn't to say that you might not enjoy it. If you do, let me know what you think of it. And another one that I'm a little more excited about is Gadgeteer. The title of this is They Create Absurd Mixed Reality Contraptions, and it's out today on the Quest 3. It says Gadgeteer, the physics-based puzzle game where you create Rube Goldberg machines, gets mixed reality support today on Quest 3. Originally launched 5 years ago, Gadgeteer from Metanaut has seen a long journey that's involved multiple post-launch updates and various ports. Available now as a free update for existing owners on Quest, the new mixed reality mode lets you build convoluted contraptions in your play space using over 100 gadgets. You can also save and load machines based on your environment. And already I'm kind of more down with this than the others. These kinds of games remind me of like Apparatus. Did you guys ever play that? That was a good time killer. I had fun with that. Also reminds me of like Krusty's Funhouse. I don't know. It's still not something I see myself spending a lot of time in. And for the record, it says, while Gadgeteer is on PSVR, Rift, and Steam, the mixed reality update is only available for the Meta Quest 3 family. Next up, Meta shows off Orion's AR operating system interface. And we only got a small glimpse of this when they showed these off at Connect. While Orion itself won't become a product, as the company admits it can't be practically mass-produced, Meta does plan to eventually release AR glasses that build on our R&D efforts with Orion, which we knew. A guy named Alex Colombe says, for those wondering, no, this is not a concept video. This is actually what it looks and feels like in there, he said on X. It's interesting to note, however, that despite being less than 20 seconds, Meta's new video seems to show at least 6 separate app launcher main menu interfaces. This could suggest that some are concepts or just that the company is experimenting with multiple approaches. Next up, Ember Soul brings Prince of Persia-inspired VR adventure to Quest next week. It's a magical hack-and-slash VR game developed by Virtual Age, who previously released Guardians Frontline last year. Ember Soul sees you portray the last immortal as you confront the elusive Shadow Sultan. Directly inspired by Assassin's Creed and Prince of Persia, it promises intense physics-based combat with over 20 weapons, magical abilities gained through Ember Stones, and various parkour challenges as you scale walls or evade traps. Finally, the Sandbox Training Arena lets you test out combat techniques and abilities as you see fit. This game's going to be for someone. It's probably not going to be for me. I'm not a huge fan of these types of games, and not to mention, I don't think it looks that good. Seems like it's very Questified. When we've got something like Batman Arkham Shadow and Metro Awakening, which, my God, that was a divisive video, wasn't it? Next up, also from Upload VR, we have DigVR. And I have not played this game, so I'm relying on these guys for something of a review. But they say comedy is a tricky thing to do successfully in games, away from the luxury of scripted cutscenes where timing is strictly controlled. Pulling off effective laughs can be difficult in a user-controlled medium. You wouldn't expect hilarity from a power-digging light sim, and yet DigVR has some of the most relatable British humor I've ever seen in a VR game. This is by the developer Just Add Water. It releases November 14th of this year, and it is exclusive to Quest. All right, so I think that actually looks pretty cool. Obviously, it's not a stunning game, but it looks like it's got a lot of the same mechanics as something like Teardown. Kind of. Like, obviously, you could never get Teardown in VR. God help us. You start a black hole and throw a T-Rex at it, and you're... doesn't matter if you have a 4090, you're going to be playing with 3 frames a second. So, but this looks kind of fun. I haven't tried it, though I have access to it. Do you guys want to see a video about this? Let me know, and I'll jump into it. Next up, we have Boxing Underdog, developed by Monologic Games, the same team behind the drastically different Ven VR adventure. Boxing Underdog aims to deliver a physics-based fighting game that takes you from underground fights to arena spectacles. The Horizon store lists a November launch, putting it in close contention with fellow VR boxing game Thrill of the Fight 2, reaching early access next week. It reads, Boxing Underdog's been made with authentic boxing techniques in mind, alongside adaptive AI enemies that will keep you on your toes. With real-time response and an optional multiplayer mode, you'll have to learn a lot if you're hoping to be the reigning boxing champion. And these guys also hope to deliver modding support in a future update, allowing you to create custom AI characters. This is coming to the MetaQuest platform for Quest 2, Pro, and 3. The PSVR 2 and PCVR editions target the Q1, Q2 of next year. Now, I have never played a boxing game in my life. I've never played Thrill of the Fight. Maybe I should. I don't know. Meaning, I'm not sure I'll jump into this. Should I? Tell me what you guys think. Next up, a little bit of bad news. Alien Rogue Incursion for Quest platform is being delayed to next year. We knew this was going to happen. Upload VR had their hands on it previously, and they thought it looked quite decent, but it was expressly not available on standalone, and they thought rightly that the reason they weren't given that experience, which is what they wanted, was because they had trouble optimizing it properly, making it look decent on standalone. I think that's very likely what happened. They're still trying to nail that down. And now Survios has confirmed it. They say still plans on releasing the game on PlayStation VR 2 and Steam on December 19th. And they say to ensure Alien Rogue Incursion meets these high standards, which they're aiming for, and provides the Alien VR experience that fans and players expect, we've made the difficult decision to delay the game's release on meta platforms until early next year. So there you have it. But I will be playing the PCVR version, and you'll get to see that footage as soon as I've got it. I'm on a list for the beta, but it's increasingly looking like they're not going to give that away. And lastly, related to games, Bootstrap Island. I've made a video on it previously. I like that game. The physics of it are fun. I love loading that gun with powder and dropping the BB and firing it. And I didn't know at the time that really it's so realistic that the more powder you add, the more effective the gun is. And so I was complaining that I couldn't kill anything, and I wasn't pouring in enough gunpowder at the time. So the game is growing on me, and they have just created an update where they've added some boss fights to the game. They're still updating it. They're still adding on to it. It goes on to say, currently available in early access, today's Overlord update for Bootstrap Island introduces several major changes. Most prominent is the Dark Lair, that's home to a formidable giant ape known as the Jungle Overlord that's out to kill you. Other additions include a day counter, food spoiling mechanics, and boots that increase your walking and running speed. This is the game that keeps on giving. It's PC VR. You're not going to get this on Quest, but if you have the means, I recommend jumping into it. It is endlessly fun. It is terrifying at night, and it's very rewarding. Just surviving. I really like this game. All right, those are a few games that are on their way. I want to touch on one thing real quick. This is not VR related necessarily. I thought it was when I reached out to these guys. There are so many glasses like the Unreal Airs, which are AR glasses that are still admittedly a bit clunky and with a very small field of view. Nothing like what the Orion is doing, but I wanted to get my hands on it, and so I reached out to a few people. And some of that may be paying off, but one company reached out and they agreed and they sent me their glasses, but I misunderstood what they were doing. These are from a company called Optrament, and they are glasses. They come in a little case like so, and confusingly for a modern product, they charge with a micro USB, which isn't to say this is a bad product at all. They also include a dongle with a light on the side of it. It lets you watch 3D movies. Now, if you have a Quest headset, you can jump into big screen and play. You can rent movies, or you can play your own media and stream it. You can even invite other people in. And then on a glorious giant screen, you can watch 3D movies, and it looks great. I've done it many times. I'm talking about these glasses now, because I misunderstood what they were sending me, and I want to talk about it. I think it's cool. It doesn't entirely fit on this channel, but I want to cover it. What these glasses do, they take your smartphone and turn it into a 3D TV. They offer an app that you can peruse movies with. These are all just trailers to give you a sense of the 3D experience. But you can also upload 3D movies to your phone if you've burned them from Blu-ray or however you go about getting 3D movies. And then when you plug this in, when you're playing media on your phone using the app that they provide, you'll notice that this light is always on. And on your glasses, you'll find that there is a sensor right there. That sensor is looking for the light. And what this does, it takes side-by-side media, which is how you get 3D videos. It takes your high hertz refresh rate on your phone and it divides it. It does a shutter effect, left, right, left, right. And the glasses sync up with that image so that if you took 200 frames a second and slowed it down considerably, you would see one image, every other image popping left, right. And this filters it out and it provides a 3D experience. It's hard to know if this is properly conveying, but there are two images here. It makes for a fuzzy video. And when you put the glasses in front of it, it's reduced to just one image, so it's no longer blurry. It's actually doing its job. It's really difficult to convey this in a video like this because I can't show you. You don't have a stereoscopic view of what I see when I look through this. Suffice it to say, the 3D effect is real and it's impressive, and it's very cool that now, imagine you're on a plane and you want to watch a 3D movie on your phone. In my case, a folding phone for a larger screen. It is cool. I haven't had a 3D TV in like 8 years, and when I had one, I loved it. It's cool having it back. And for something that's just a little over $100, I feel like it's worth it if you don't own a Quest 3. So this is the hiccup I have with this. A couple things, actually. Because these glasses need to communicate with that light, there has to be a line of sight. So if I'm looking at the phone and I turn my head and look over here, the sensor can no longer see the light on the phone and it kind of kicks off the 3D effect. And if I turn back to the phone, there will be a 1 second delay where it figures it out and kicks back on and suddenly it's 3D again. That can happen quite often. Not the end of the world, but it is a bit of a bummer. But that's the thing. You know, if you have a Meta Quest 3 headset, then you already have access to this functionality. But more than that, you have a giant screen in a dark room. Wherever you look, it's always there. So this is difficult to talk about. I think it's awesome that I can have 3D movies on my phone. Strictly Android right now, actually, but they're working on Apple. It's cool to have that functionality. Just knowing the tech exists, I like it. But it does not work on TVs, which is a little bit baffling. I know why it doesn't work on TVs, but because the TV is so much further away from you, you would have to plug a USB dongle into the TV, and the light would have to be like a lamp. It would have to be big enough that like it successfully reached the glasses. On top of that, if you have a 60 hertz TV, which most of us do, I think, it would cut that into 30 frames a second, which is fine for movies. But if you're streaming via HDMI and you want something that's 4K, 30 frames a second, that would cut it in half to 15 frames a second, and suddenly it's not useful. Casting your phone screen to the TV doesn't work just yet. I've tried it. The blurry image that you see on your phone, because it's duplicating those two images, it does not translate to the TV. So this is strictly your phone. It's strictly Android. It will be Apple eventually. I think it's cool that this exists, but again, if you have a Quest headset, there's absolutely no reason in the world to buy this, and I'm done talking about it, but I think it's cool. I can't think of anything worse than bring on a pair of glasses that I say are really cool, but to an audience of everyone who has some kind of a Quest headset. And lastly, I am going to be in possession shortly of a VR rig. Not a motion sim, I wish. I cannot get anyone to send me one of those, and I do not have 10 grand to spend. But it's a frame with a seat and attachable pedals and a wheel and haptics for the back. And if not soon, then second quarter of next year, I've negotiated with the people behind the butt kicker to send me one of those devices to incorporate it into this, and I will review that on the channel and share it with you. But essentially, the butt kicker is a device that gives you more than haptic vibration. It actually kicks the seat, and it's timed with actions inside of a racing game or a cockpit, a flight sim. And so while this device won't tilt left and right, it will be nice not being at this desk with a steering wheel and pedals awkwardly down there. It's going to be cool being able to sit low to the ground. I'll slowly upgrade the pedals, and having that feedback and the bumps in the road as I'm driving, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And using this rig, which I should have by this weekend, I'm going to be reviewing the upcoming EXO cars, which I'm very excited for. And I'm going to revisit the likes of Star Wars Squadrons and Dirt 2. What other games do you guys want to see? I'll be putting this thing together, recording the process, making a video with it, and then showing some gameplay and kind of seeing what this thing is like. I'd like to get immersive with it. The haptics are going to be nice, and I really can't wait to get my hands on that butt kicker. What a name. And I just want your input. What games do you want to see? What are you interested in? Those pedals and steering wheel and anything with a flight stick, that's strictly PC VR. I'm sorry. And that's all I got. Thank you for being here. You guys have been watching Bringhurst VR. Godspeed.